Are you an IMG preparing to sit the MLCGP SCA? Maybe you're finding it difficult to plan your revision, you're not getting the motivation, or you don't know where to start. In this video, I'm going to share with you a conversation I had with an IMG who's preparing for the SCA. I think you've done it the right way. That's probably what I would do in terms of explaining more for the well-being of your child. I would probably want to know what's the name of the child as well. I mean, just a few things that makes it more personal, like you're caring for the child, because that was the concern of the mom. The history here is slightly disorganized because there are things that you jump back and forth. Try and segment it if possible. For example, if somebody is having this presentation of faint, you want to get a clear story about how did this happen from the first one, second one, third one, what has changed. Then it's usually good to see about like faint, during, and then post. That will help you to get a better understanding of what's going on. Then I think the recreational drugs and smoking, then it kind of being asked at various parts of the consultation. So you want to try and get all of them together in the psychosocial aspects. It's good that you came to the driving because that's something some registrars might forget, and it's a safety issue. So you got that. And the patient was understandable here about not driving. So the problem here is that the patient was not sure how long would she stop driving for, and she didn't get a clear answer. And that was frustrating for the patient here. You had a lot of emphasis on the mood and divorce and whether that's affecting it and whether that's linked. I think some of the questions were a bit leading here. Something you said was, do you think this is linked to the divorce? Which it's not really a good way of asking the question, because technically this problem is likely to be something else going on here. And in your history, you want to show you're thinking about various systems. For example, could it be neuro, could it be ENT? So I would probably ask a few more questions about whether the patient had any problem with their ears, pain. Are you struggling with your consultation skills? Maybe you need help and you want to get constructive feedback. If you'd like to get help, then click the link down the description below to see whether I can help you. If I can help you, then we can enroll you on the one-to-one coaching program. I think you did allude to seizure, but a key question that would help you to find out whether it was any seizure would be asking, like, for example, I just need to ask you a sensitive question. Did you wet yourself afterwards?
Yeah.
So that would be really important. Or did you bite your tongue? That shows to me that you're thinking neuro as well. You did ask some of the neuro question about the migraine, which is helpful in this case, but more specifically for this type of faint. In terms of the examination here, it came much later, and this is where the organization is very important. To be honest with you, I don't think examination would add much value here. All right, you could actually refer this patient and explain in your letter to that this is what the A&E doctor felt, and that's why you're referring. And don't need to examine, to be honest, in this, because there's been an examination in A&E done. Unless you felt there was something they were missing, like you want to examine for something else. So you see, this management here is more difficult because I don't know what's the support network. But if I knew whether there's any family members nearby, or she mentioned about the dad, so is there a relative who could help with the daughter? That's useful. But if I don't know that, then the plan would be very generic, as in what sort of help and considering social services here. You see, it's dangerous when you start to assume, because it could be that she's got people, but she doesn't want to burden them. In terms of the management plan here, you could arrange a follow-up though. I think that would be helpful to arrange a follow-up and see what happens. This is where the management needs to be more holistic and adjust. I like the way that you said, if there's anything I could do to make it easy for work and explain, that's helpful. So yeah, I mean, you're getting better, and the history could be a bit more organized. What you said about practice is helpful, but that's not the whole picture. What you want to do is practice, reflect on your practice, refine, get feedback, and then practice again. So you know the iterative feedback loop that I talk about. That's what you want to do. If you just keep practicing and practicing, you're not going to progress. To get more out of your practice, you have to reflect on it. Like today, when you're getting the feedback, make sure that you reflect on it and use a companion and write it down, and write down what you would have changed the structure. And then that will help you to consolidate your learning. Next time you're doing it, you're going to correct. The cases we're doing is not easy because I want you to have a really good level, so that when you do the exam, it will feel less hard, you see. I think the problem why you took longer to go into the management was your questions were a bit too preloaded. So you're asking a question, but before you did that, you were explaining a little bit about things before. So you can signpost before you ask a question, but you want to avoid doing too much talking, you know. So having something you said about like you know, with adrenal gland there's crisis, and I think you explain a little bit and then you ask a question. So I think you have to try and cut this down, because that's actually not a good use of your time, and you're not going to get marks for that, because we're still in data gathering and you're doing this management bit. So leave that for the management side once you've taken the history. With regards to this patient's idea, he thought it was probably like a food poisoning issue. I would say something like, yeah, I understand that you're worried about the fact that you've eaten this Chinese takeout, and could be that you're having a problem that's food poisoning, and as a result of that, you're not able to absorb your medication, and this is leading to a complication where I'm quite worried that the fact that you're not able to produce steroid in your body, then you can't replace it by just taking it orally. So that's why I'm thinking it's important we get you seen in the hospital so that we can give you the right treatment. So you see how I link it to the patient's idea. What I want you to do here is score yourself. Tell me what score you're going to give yourself in each domain, and then I'll give you feedback on your score. The assessment was done safely. You check whether he's still passing urine, like dehydration status. You check about any pain in the abdomen. What you could have asked would be whether there's been any blood in the stool, any discharge. That would be helpful to know. But you ask about the vomiting history, and try and find out how much he's drinking. And you consider the implication of the adrenal issue here. So I think, in fairness here, the data gathering was done to some extent probably borderline pass. All right, I'll probably give you a borderline pass here. I would say you might get a 2 from an examiner here. So I think at the management here, probably 1 here, because most people know this is an admission, but how you make it in terms of smooth experience for the patient and execute on that plan is where you're going to score higher. All right, so how you make it shared and make the plan more smooth, as in showing that you understand them and you're building from the understanding and getting them on the same page as you. And the other issue that is why you're not scoring well in the clinical management is the time. So because of the time management here, that's a major impact on the management of your plan here. Okay, it would be nice here to actually say exactly what sort of support for the wife, as in yes, respite care, but to put the patient's mind at ease, you could explain like what sort of charity that's available, or who can actually look after somebody who is carer who needs to go to hospital. Relating to others here, I think the listening was better than previously. The health agenda is an issue where you're not readdressing it. Yes, you understood that the patient was worried about a tummy bug, but then if you don't readdress it, then the patient might think you have not actually listened to them. Then you did explore about the possibility of safeguarding issue for the wife, which is good, and you readdressed that and responded to that very well in terms of explaining what can be done. So I think here you probably get a 2 for relating to others. But the way you can improve that is make sure that you readdress the I's and share your management. So what you want to do here is think about the patient's interests and what are their concerns, and think from that lens, and then show them that you're on the same team as them and you're trying to find a solution together. That's a good way of actually doing it. Then it won't be like your doctor-centered agenda and trying to push that, but it's more about you're on the same side and you're trying to find a solution together. There was a hesitation that could be felt when you're discussing the desmopressin here. So I think that took you a long time before actually, and that's why you were struggling with your time in this case, because it took you a long time. And this is where if you know exactly how to manage it and you're more confident, then you will do it in a shorter time period. I would probably not go for the desmopressin here, because it's not usually done for secondary. For primary, yeah, you can do it, but for secondary, it's different type of management. So because here the problem is it's sounding like it's more due to the separation, that's something worth seeing what we can do about that. So I think you pick up on the fact that the bedwetting alarm worked before and didn't. So that's a good thing, as in sometimes what happens is that the child might be unplugging the alarm just before they go to bed. So that's an issue. But the mom won't know about it. So you could say something like, sometimes children might switch it off or unplug it. Do you think that might be the case? Other things you might consider here is how far is the toilet from the bedroom? Because if it's dark and it's quite far, the child's not going to wake up. They'll just keep sleeping. So very important when you're discussing the plan is that in terms of drinking, you don't confuse the management here. So if you go and look at the nice CKS guidance on enuresis, parents are not advised to restrict fluid. They're advised that they can give the child to drink adequately. So that's because sometimes I think in the old days that was advised to restrict fluid, but that's not anymore. Other things to consider here is how they're using the bed, like the star chart, because sometimes parents don't know how to use, even if they've been explained once, they might not get it. So it's important to see what's being done. And then in terms of how the parent actually respond to the bedwetting, because if the parent is being critical, it's going to make the situation worse. So that's something to consider in your history. If you find this video useful, you might want to watch this video to boost your score in clinical management. Click the video here to watch it. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.